Well, that's kind of bad, but hey, what can you do? This is the shortest stage in the game by far. It's just around a minute long. I'm not sure why it counts as its own stage, but the game labels it as one. It's very unlikely that you will lose here regardless of what suit you pick, but if you want to go through it without getting hit, you can use the defensive suit. Because the defensive suit is capable of blocking those pistons that come down from the ceiling. As you're about to see. If there were one place in this game, in this level that you could actually die, it would be right here, but they even put an extra life right on the pathway. So yeah, just don't worry about it. At the very end of the corridor right here, there is a boss of sorts, but we just elbow slammed the console and it blows up within seconds. And then... yeah, right after the end of that stage, it dumps us back into the suit select, like that last one never even happened. So we're gonna take the game's advice here and pretend that last one never happened. Right, welcome to the final level. I'm going to try and use the stealth mechanics here just to show you that they don't work. The stealth mechanics exclusively work on the last level and none of the others. But that's okay, because this level's kind of fun. We have a new enemy type here in the form of this flamethrower goon. The flames from his flamethrower hurt just as badly as the ones in the previous stage. But if we have our defensive suit on, they're not a big deal. So, you know, just have your defensive suit on. If for some reason you didn't pick the defensive suit at the suit select screen, I think it even starts you out with it. You can see here, like I said back in the first level, the guys with the jester hats are really good at evading your attacks, but that's almost all they're good for. And once again, I will make an attempt to use the stealth mechanics. So far, so good. But no, after you reach a certain point, they just spawn the enemies regardless. These big clowns are a lot like the Minotaurs, except they can break your combo with that big overhead slam of theirs. If you see it coming, you can block in time, especially if you have the defense suit, where it then won't do any damage to you. And here is the useless Dark Knight staff, which I mentioned a couple of times, but never used, because it's useless. We can also use our charged up nunchucks to take out the guys that are a bit beefier. But it still takes 3 shots from our nunchucks, and you're best off just using your defensive suit. But you know, we haven't used the nunchucks in a while, so why not? Also, I want to make something clear in case it wasn't clear enough yet. If you're good enough at blocking, you can make it through the entire game just by using the elbow slam and the defensive suit. It may take significantly longer, but you can totally do it. Oh, and we do fight the rest of Joker's crew here. So far we fought Bonk, Woof, and Ghoul, but we still have the 2 twin sisters and Chuckles to deal with. Chuckles is by far my favorite of the goons in the actual film, which you should go watch, by the way. But all of them are fairly interesting for how short a time period they get. It is a bit odd that there was a game based on that movie at all, and I think the movie deserved a much better game than this, but I want to believe that at least this game tried to be something good and interesting. The character designs are in line with the TV show, so are the environment... sorry, not the TV show, the movie. So are the environments, and the story follows the basic outline of the movie. Also, the character portraits in the corners look very nice, and sometimes even menacing, which is pleasant. The gameplay as a whole, though, is rather odd. For a game with so much focus on using your options in combat, you don't really need to use your options very much in combat. A lot of the variety in this game that you've seen is me forcing that variety. Like right now, I could be using the defensive suit to take out this guy like this. but I knew that we haven't used the nunchucks very much, so I was using them instead. There's no reason for you to use anything but the defensive suit and the offensive suit, except for when you're platforming, but the nimble suit is useless otherwise. The game design is here in the form of enemies, though. All the enemies have different attack patterns and different ways they need to be approached. Like I said, sure, you can use the same attacks on them the whole game, without ever spicing it up, but you still need to choose how you approach to use said attacks. And there's more than enough enemy variety for a game this short. There are a lot of beat-em-ups 3 times this long with less enemy types. Now, on the flip side, if you're a normal person, this game is probably insanely frustrating because you're going to be trying to use your punches and kicks like any normal beat-em-up and getting yourself wrecked. This isn't really a game where the exploits are exploits, it's a game where the exploits are how you win, and that's it. If you just run up to the enemies and try to press the punch button, you're gonna land on your ass, like, all the time. The PS1 version is a very stark contrast to this. It seems like a much more traditionally made beat-em-up, but at the cost of anything even remotely resembling interesting gameplay. Chuckles says to leave Batman to him, but Chuckles isn't actually in this room. He's in one of these 3 hidden rooms. And of course we're going to go through all of them before we actually fight Chuckles, just so I can show you what's in them. In this one, there are some boxes, and you can platform on them, but there's nothing on top of the boxes. The one to our left isn't that much more interesting. There's an enemy in this one, but he's the most basic enemy in the game. And we got a health pickup, which we actually kinda needed that one. Alright, now it's time to fight Chuckles, and Chuckles is actually the hardest boss in the game, much harder than the Joker and much harder than the 2 twins. He has a very large amount of health that takes forever to decrease, and he's capable of breaking pretty much all of your attacks instantly. So what's the winning strategy? Using your elbow slam. The elbow slam hits him multiple times. I don't know if it's intentional that the elbow slam hits him multiple times, but it only happens with certain characters, so I'm going to assume it's intentional. After we defeat him, he drops the key forward, and I just remembered his name is Chucko, not Chuckles, but he's still my favorite. And this next room is a repeat of that stage that doesn't exist with all the hazards. See, the thing is, this part of the stage more than has enough hazards in it to fill that gameplay quota. So why was there an entire 1-minute level of nothing but this when they fit it so easily into the final level? And either I'm really good at this game, or they just expected you to die way too much, because we have 6 extra lives now. Anyway, just like the last stage we went through that doesn't exist, this one has no enemies in it except for those things that shoot balls at us, but we can't hurt those. And at the end of this whole way, I believe, is the boss fight against the twins. And I'm gonna let that boss fight and the final boss speak for themselves, alright?